What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today is another installment of Macro Monday here on the channel where I review a beer from a macro brewery or a macro-esque beer from a craft brewery. And today I'm actually doing a side-by-side comparison review of two beers from Garage Beer, and they're headquartered in Columbus, Ohio, and I have their Garage Beer Classic and their Garage Beer Lime. So the Classic is an American light lager that comes in at 4% alcohol by volume and 10 IBUs, while the Lime version is essentially the Classic with the addition of a hint of lime. It also comes in at 4% alcohol by volume and 10 IBUs. And at the time of review, the Classic is just under 3 months old and the Lime is just over 5 months old. And I picked both of these up at Halftime Beverage via halftimebeverage.com. So in the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did that contains all the goodies I grabbed, and I picked up 31 beers in total. And I picked up these two for one specific reason. Here in the Buffalo, New York area, these beers have shown up. However, I have not been able to find them as singles, so before I buy an entire pack of either beer, I wanted to try them out, so I threw them in my cart, and here we are. Now, you've probably heard about this beer over the past year or two. So it started off as a beer from the Braxton Brewing Company in Covington, Kentucky. I've actually been to the brewery before. And in 2023, it was bought by Andy Sauer, S-A-U-E-R. And he turned it into basically the Garage Beer Company. And then he brought on the Kelsey brothers of the NFL. You have Jason, who is the retired Philadelphia Eagle, and then also his brother Travis, who is of the Kansas City Chiefs. And they became investors, and I now believe they're co-owners. And more or less, they are at the front of the brand. You hear about this beer in commercials and whatnot. They're both typically very prominent figures in all the advertising. But this is basically a very light American lager, right? So it's 4% beer to compete with your Bud Lights, Miller Lights, Coors Light, the whole nine. And the whole appeal of this one is beer flavored beer. I remember reading an article about this is something that both craft beer enthusiasts can enjoy along with macro drinkers who maybe want something with a slightly more flavor. So yeah, the regular one, 4% American light lager, and then this one, what they say is a hint of lime. We'll see if that is the case. At the end, I will do the mix of the two called the Cuvée, and I call it the Kovi here on my channel. We will do that at the end. And I have two glasses here. We got the Rajay Beer Ventures glass because Rajay moved back to the Cincinnati area, Covington, Kentucky, all in that little pocket there. And the reason I checked out the Braxton Brewing Company, the aforementioned Braxton Brewing Company, is because I went to hang out with Rod. I think that was back in 2019. And I got my Genesee typical beer glass I use here, pint for most of the macro reviews. Plus it matches the color of this, but not as much, a little bit darker. Anyway, so we're gonna crack this one open, get it into the glass. And yeah, I'm very curious to see how these two are. Now, these aren't super fresh, obviously, just under 3 months, just over 5 months, but you gotta make do with what you pick up. So give it a pour here, and that is pouring out incredibly light. Wow. For some reason, I did not expect that. That is a super light looking beer. It is 4%, gotta always keep that in mind. It is 4%. This is not, a crazy 6-7% lager or anything. I'm curious. Now, this says on the can a hint of lime. Now, they both have spiels on the back of the cans that I'll hopefully remember to read towards the end of the review. But if I don't, probably be in the description box. We'll see how long this review ends up being. For some reason, that head is way more ridiculous than this. So we'll throw the can over here. If I had to pick between the two, this has a nice Classic, but I mean, the brightness and everything looks beautiful on this one. So when these settle down, I'd imagine they're gonna look fantastic in the glass. All right, so let's kind of get a nice little look-see here. So as you guys can see, I would say they look very similar. They are a very, very strong golden color. Clarity is through the roof. Both have great carbonation. This has more of an etching to produce the nucleation, while the carbonation on this is going a little bit crazy in comparison to the other, the base. This one had about a half finger of a bright white, foamy looking head, kind of soap sudsy. This one's more soap sudsy than anything, about a finger and a half to almost 2 fingers. They look almost identical. If anything, holding them up to the light over here, I'd say this one looks slightly lighter, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it does. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw this over here, and we're gonna get into the base one first, because that's where we should start. But yeah, it looks like a light lager for sure. So doesn't have a lot of flavor, a lot of aroma. Expect it. 4%. Has that like grainy, slightly like corn grits kind of aroma, you know, like a corny, like they're using corn syrup or corn in general. Yeah, grainy, crackery, great, corny. Has a ever so slight like sweetness to it. Again, you can't smell sweetness, but a perceived sweetness. It smells like so many light lagers I've had in the past, like it just to a T. Nothing crazy, no hop character, just pretty much just malty. Just smells like it's going to be one of those, you know, crushing beers like after doing some yard work or, you know, hanging out and just you want to take down a 6-pack. That is what it smells like. This smells like lime. Also, go check out, if you're curious to see a different opinion of side-by-sides, a couple good friends of mine, fellow beer tubers, Dan and Mike over at FLX Beer Reviews, they did this recently. I have not watched that review, but I did see that they posted it, and I also saw their Untapped check-ins. They seem to like the lime version more than the base, but I haven't watched a review yet. I was kind of trying to put that off until I did this myself. But this just has this beautiful, like this is an authentic lime. It's almost like if you had a Corona and you actually put a lime wedge in there. I'm getting everything, like a peel from the lime, lime juice, bright, somewhat like has like an acidic, like kind of brightness to it. It's kind of everything in that beer, but just with like a zesty lime. Preferences to this one. Again, if you're looking for something that has a little bit more of like a citrus zip to it, in the nose, that smells better, 100%. This smells just like a beer. And it says right on the base, beer flavored beer over here. It says light beer with lime, but yeah, this is beer flavored beer. Anyway, let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. That is incredibly light. This is gonna sound bad, but for folks who buy something like this, like the light beer drinkers of the world, Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, whatever, you want something that has a little bit of flavor, but is kind of like just watery. It can go down like water. That's what this is. A little bit of flavor, not astringent. The flavor's fine, but it's just like a step up above water. Body is super light. It is a little bit watery. Kind of expect that 4%. The mouthfeel, crisp, incredibly clean, super refreshing, vibrant on the palate, very spritzy, effervescent. From front to back, I'm getting a grainy, like corn grits, corn syrup, corny kind of flavor, but it's very light. So it's not overpowering with the corn, which I think is a good thing for this beer because it's only 4%. So it's like not dominating the flavor, but that's what I get front to back. On the finish is dry. Really no bitterness to speak of. Maybe a slight, ever so slight grassiness if I'm stretching for it, but not really. It's just pretty simple. The good thing about this one, I'm picking up on absolutely zero, and I'm saying zero off flavors on this one. There's nothing astringent, nothing bad about it. Very clean, extremely clean. Goes down incredibly well. Just an easy, light lager, American light lager. That's what it is. It's all right. Not anything amazing. I didn't expect it to be. Especially when we talk about the price point and everything, it's going to be in line with everything else. Let's get in this one. Cheers. All right, so credit to them because to me, a lot of times you'll see like a light lime lager and it'll say hint of lime or just a little refreshing lime blast or whatever. And then you drink it and it's like the equivalent of drinking like lemon flavored dish soap if it was lime in a beer. That doesn't have that kind of vibe to it after the first sip. It definitely is a hint of lime. Much like this, light body, somewhat watery, crisp, clean, and refreshing. Very spritzy on the palate. Front to back, same thing I got in this beer, but with I'd say more of like an underlying like kick of like a zesty like lime zest. I'd say it's more of like a lime zest as opposed to like an actual lime juice. You know, the peel, when you zest a lime into something, that's kind of what this has going on. A very slight like tart acidic finish. So where this one finishes extremely clean, this is clean, but it does have a little bit of that like zesty kind of acidic lime, I don't want to say blast because it's just like a subtle hint of it on the finish. Both of these, I didn't really mention, there's a slight like sulfuric kind of like lager funk that you would associate with these beers, but it's very minor, but it's definitely there. And I notice it more in this beer, which is why I just mentioned it. Really didn't pick up on it too much in this one for sure. So what do I think about both of these beers? Well, I'll be honest with you. Going into this one, I had a pretty good idea of like what, the market on these. Again, if you're a craft lover and you want something that's, a beer flavored beer that's 4%, not going to break the bank, yeah, this is fine. If you're a macro lager drinker, a lot of them do taste similar. After doing all these reviews, I've done blind taste testings off camera before back in the day. So many of the light lagers are very similar for me. I would say for me, if I was strictly a light lager drinker, I would just go on whatever's on sale that week, that month. That's pretty much what I buy unless it's something I really don't care for. But something like this, if you want to support not a big conglomerate and you want to do something that's a little bit more craft, and on the back of the cans they say small batch brewed, sure, pick this up. You're not breaking the bank, maybe slightly more expensive than some of the BMC beers, but there's no off flavors here. These beers are doing what they're supposed to do, and I can't fault them for it. At the end of the day, are they anything amazing? Not to me, but these beers are meant to be. Look at the name of the brewery. It's the Garage Beer Company, or I think it's Garage Beer Company officially. What these beers are meant for is exactly that. Your buddy comes over, you go in the garage, you have some of these in the fridge, you crack them open, you're watching the game, you're hanging out maybe with a neighbor for a couple hours. You're not thinking about these beers. You're just, hey, I'm having a beer with a friend. And that's a perfect marketing gimmick for this. That's pretty much where these are for me. So between the two, I don't really like one more than the other. If I had to choose, probably the lime, because it does have a little bit more flavor than the base, but it's just a little bit of a zesty lime. So if you're in the mood for a little bit more of that citrus / fruity kind of kick, I'd go with that. Especially in the summertime, I think this would be a little bit more refreshing, but this is a decent light lager. So I don't think either of these beers are amazing, but I can't really knock them too much. So I'm going to give, here's how I'll finish with these. The Garage Beer Classic, I am going to give this a very simple 3.5 out of 5. I think it's very inoffensive for what it's supposed to be. I can't really go crazy about it, but that's a pretty high score for me when it comes to beers like this, basically macro light lagers. Like a 3.5, it's inoffensive, it's tasty, I enjoy it, whatever. So that's what I would give this one specifically. And then the light... the lime, I would have to go very slightly higher. I'm going to give this a 3.55. Why? Because why not? 3.55. So that's kind of where I land with both of these beers. They're kind of in that 3.5 realm. For me, that means it's a solid, decent, enjoyable beer to some degree. You're not looking to start the world ablaze in the craft beer world with these beers, but they're meant for what they exactly are, and that's drinking beers in a garage. Now, we're going to do the Kovi. We're going to do the Kovi. I'm pouring in this, and then we'll pour in the light one. I'll be 100% transparent with you. I have no idea what I'm going to get from this. In terms of, why am I doing this? What is the point? All I can see it ending up being is more or less this beer with a little bit of lime flavor, or this beer with a little less lime flavor. I don't know what I'm doing here. We'll see. Anyway, I'm not even cleanse the palate. I don't think it matters. Anyway, the look of it. Do you really need to see it? You already saw it. It looks like it should. Nose. Smells like that, watered down. A very small. Now, when they say hint of lime, this is like a very, very small hint of lime. Everything, yeah, whatever. Cheers. Absolutely no reason to do that, ever. Not a single time would I ever want to do that again. It's taking what is good about this one, which is that lime character, and watering it down. So you're almost approaching this level. So what is the point? There is no point. I'm going to drink the rest of it because I'm probably going to drink all of these very quickly. 4%. It's fine. One more sip. I'll give the Cuvée a 3.25. I think it did a disservice to both of the beers, honestly. Price point availability. The Classic and the Lime. I saw them pretty much same price point. These 6-packs, these are 16 fluid ounce cans. In my area, $9. Give or take $1 or $2 wherever you are, but $9. All right, I think it's a little bit pricey. However, you switch it over to 12 fluid ounce cans, 12 packs, around $15 in my area. And then a case, 24, is around $23. I would just buy the case if I was going to buy these. You're talking less than $1 a can. That's the way I'd go. I wouldn't buy these again. I bought them because I could get a single. But if I ever revisit these again, I'd definitely get a 12-pack or a 24-pack, and I think I'd buy the Lime. But, this is It's just nice. Again, these are nice for what they are. They're not setting the world ablaze, like I said. Nothing's crazy about them. But I think the marketing here, plus the Kelsey brothers being involved, if you like the Kelsey brothers, I think that's the whole allure to these beers. And it is what it is. So if you've had either of these beers before, please post in the comment section. I don't think I mentioned the alcohol, but it's 4%. You can't taste it. It's 4%. You're not tasting it. But yeah, if you had either of these or you ever did a side-by-side of these, I don't think they have any other offerings within the line, but maybe they'll come out with some down the road. But yeah, I mean, it's a fine American light lager, nothing more and nothing less. So I appreciate each and every one of you stopping by for another beer review. That does it for another Macro Monday. I try to do these every 3 to 4 weeks. I think it's been about 6 weeks since I've done one. I still have a can of Bud Light in the fridge. The only did I do all the rest of the light lagers? I don't know. I have to do definitely review a Bud Light. And then once I get through all the Bud Lights and stuff, then I'm going to start doing probably some offshoot macro stuff. And I don't know. I like mixing them in about every month. So be on the lookout. So appreciate everybody stopping by for another. Oh, availability. I didn't even do availability. Well, these are available pretty much throughout like the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic. If you go to their website, I think they're in like 13 to 15 different states. I'd imagine over the next 6 months to a year as they get more popular, you're going to see them in more and more states. They just showed up here in Buffalo in like the last 3 to 6 months. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to shut this one down. Appreciate it. To the next one. Cheers.